Hello everybody, I'm Tom Basso and welcome to Week in Review. Hey, this is a video that we do every week, summary of all the stuff we've done on the Dice Tower over the past week. And then if you want to see the full video, all you have to do is click the links in the description to go watch it. Here we go.
Hey everybody, I'm Z Garcia. Here's what I did last week. So I reviewed Dice Conquest, which I rated a 6 out of 10. This is a dice chucking, very fast-paced game in which you are rolling a pool of these dice and then assigning them cooperatively with the other players to some monster cards that you flip over. It's very simple. It's incredibly straightforward. There's a couple of weird little rules, hiccups that I think are there for the sake of both giving you this fast-paced, fun, very attractive game and a set of role-playing dice for like D&D or Pathfinder. And they have to kind of adjust that to fit the one thing. But overall, the game is neat. It's not revolutionary. I think it's I sort of called it a very pleasant time waster in the best way possible. And it is that. It's fun. It's fine. It's just not something I'm going to keep coming back to. I reviewed Basket Boss, which I rated an 8 out of 10. This new edition of Basket Boss does some very good things and leaves some things undone that I think could have been done. Plus, the rulebook's a little weak. The rulebook could have used a few more examples. It could have been a little bit longer. It seems that BoardGameTables.com, they continue to stick with very short rulebooks, which is great and feels good to be able to look at something and go, wow, that's it? Okay. But a few more examples I think are going to be beneficial in the long run. This one is a solid game with auctions, with managing your team, and trying to be tactical with when you score and how you do so. Really neat stuff. I reviewed Combinations, which I also rated an 8 out of 10. This one is a very by-the-numbers sort of tile-laying game. You're trying to make large groups of the same types of lands and score points for that. There's a few other little things, but it's a workman-like kind of game. It is one that gets in there, tells you what it's going to do, does that thing, is done in 40 minutes, and is out. I respected that. I really enjoyed that feel of it. I would certainly recommend this one for someone who wants a game that feels like a classic already, in a way, and mostly the reason it feels that way is because there's nothing pretentious about it or getting in your way. And then lastly, I reviewed Heat, Pedal to the Metal, which I rated a 9 out of 10. I think this is a fantastic racing game. Really enjoyable, very fast-paced, absolutely a stunning-looking game. And right in the box, you are going to get modules, and you're going to get extra tracks. It feels like the kind of idea and design that already comes packed with extra stuff you might get in an expansion. And I really respect that. Even without that stuff, the game's great. But with all of that in there, elevates it to something that is, right out of the box, going to have miles and miles in it. So there you go, that is Heat. And that's it for me, folks. My name is Z Garcia. I'll see you on the next one.
Hey everybody, Chris here. This week I took a look at quite a few games, starting off with Terracotta Army, which I gave a 5. This is a game that I wanted to enjoy, didn't end up enjoying it, not great at 2 players, way too long at more players. It has a lot of mechanisms I love, but ultimately didn't come together in a package that I want to play again. So unfortunately, a 5 from me. Next up, Ecosystem Coral Reef. This is a sequel that I give a 7.5. This is a sequel to Ecosystem. I like the ocean setting, I like the new artwork, I like the little mechanical changes that this game made to refine it, make it a bit better. I'm still baffled that they did not put symbology on the cards to help you understand how each card scores. That was a huge missed opportunity, unfortunately. Next up, Federation, also gave a 7.5. This is a big, complex, heavy Euro game that has a fun political theme that I think really does come through. It's got a lot of setup. It's got a lot of interconnected bits that I want to like more, and I think that I might be drawn to play this one a little bit more. We'll see. So sitting at a 7.5, a bit overwhelming, but also very fun. Next up, Tiletum. This is a game I gave an 8. This is a heavy, complex Euro game from 2 of my favorite designers, Tascini and Luciani. Has an amazing dice drafting system. It's got a couple of graphical flubs, particularly the die colors and the resources that they correspond to. However, a really great game that I'm limiting at 2 players. I do not want to play more than that. Heat. Heat I gave an 8.5. Fantastic racing game. Great opportunity to have a wide player count because of the the easy AI that you can play this solo. You can play this up to 6 people. I like this one a lot. A lot. I recommend that. I can't gush about it enough. Go watch the review, obviously. And then lastly, I did a pile of Dominion reviews with Tom. I gave each of these at least a 9. I gave the new Seaside 2nd edition a 9.5, but it was Hinterlands and Prosperity gave a 9. I love Dominion. It for a long time was my favorite game. It's still in my top 10 games, which is amazing for a game that I've been playing for over a decade now. I love it. I like the changes that they've made, the cards they pulled out. I think the Prosperity ones are probably the ones I'm going to miss the most, but I think that there's a lot of improvements, especially, in my opinion, in the Seaside one. So there you go. That's been my week.
All right, folks, this week I took a look at 4 different games. First up, I took a look at Combinations. This game was a little too restricting for me. I like the puzzle games, the turn optimization games, but this one just felt a little too... you just cut yourself off too much. And that was a little bit more frustrating than I personally like. I can definitely see how people liked. I came in at a 6.5 for this one. Also took a look at Dice Conquest this week. This is a light game. I came in at a 7.5 on this one. This is a game where you're trying to take out a stack of bad guys, rolling dice, and optimally trying to use those cooperatively to go through the whole deck and take out the big baddie. This is a great filler kind of game for me. Very light, very fun, set in a fantasy world. So not one that I would usually go for, so this was kind of a surprise for me, 7.5. Also took a look at Monolyth, a new title by Simon. Came in at 8 with this one. This definitely has that toy factor down. I would say this is like patchwork with toys. And you're kind of building up your cubes. There's lots of scoring opportunities on this, and you kind of have that branching path, like, hey, do I want to go for building up on this goal over here, or do I want to push my luck and think that I can meet this goal instead? And really trying to balance that of when to take more stuff or optimize scoring opportunities. So I really enjoyed my play of Monolyth, coming in at an 8. Finally took a look at Heat. Heat, I came in at 8.5, and I think there's a lot of room to go up. This gameplay was so much fun. What held back my score a little bit on this one was it's kind of hard to get into. The first game is definitely a teach game. Not because it's complex, it's a simple game, but it just felt a little, I think we said clutchy, kind of getting into it, just kind of hung up, the gameplay, getting into it. But once you do, the actual gameplay is fantastic. So I think this is one that is going to be rewarded by that second play, by that third play, when you're trying to balance building your car up, how fast to take turns, where to push your luck, where to hold back, and I really, really enjoyed my play of Heat. Highly recommend it. That's all for me. Let's keep it going.
Week in review. This time it is party game time. I took a look at 2 different party games. One was Fun Facts. This is a party game where you're trying to put things in different order based off of what everybody thinks. And it's a cooperative game, kind of in the lines of Just One or So Clover. I gave this a 7.5. Definitely enjoyed that one. And then also Green Team Wins. I gave this one a 7. It's one where you're trying to pick the same thing as everybody else and then be on the same team. The scoring is kind of wacky because I was a little bit of a runaway leader, but it was still a fun activity and a fun kind of thing to do for a party style game. Anyway, that's what I took a look at this week.
Hi guys, Rich here, and this week I did a small tiny review on a game called Smitten, published by Stonemaier Games. In this game, players will be working together to create a beautiful portrait of all the Stonemaier games in their catalog. Overall, I thought this game was okay, and I gave it a 6.5.
Hi, I'm Wendy Yi, and this week I reviewed 5 different games. The first game is Terracotta Army. This is a board and dice game that I was very excited about, but I give it a 5 because sadly, I did not enjoy the area control elements of it. I didn't enjoy the way that the scoring worked, how you could move which columns and rows scored, and just completely affect each other in that way. The type of interaction I didn't find enjoyable. I found it to be quite mean. And even though I enjoyed some of the mechanisms, I think that definitely overshadowed it for me. As for the next game, Delicious, it's a cute little roll and write game about planting plants in different planters. I gave it a 6.5 because it is a very cute roll and write game. There's some good design or like decision space. There's some fun, kind of a fun drawing gimmick that you can choose to play with or choose not to play with. But at the end of the day, I don't feel like it stood out above a lot of other roll and writes. I would definitely play it again, but I don't know if I would choose it over most other ones. Now, the third game is Federation. This is a big, heavy Euro game that's very brightly colored, and it's kind of the theme of like a Star Wars Senate. and you're basically trying to move up on tracks, and you're trying to get your certain agendas to score each round by having kind of a majority voting system. There's parts that I really liked about this and parts that I didn't. I'm sorry, I gave it a 7 because though the tracks were fun and I like tracks, I felt like they didn't arc as much as I wanted to, but that didn't ruin the game for me. I still very much enjoyed it. I thought that there was a lot of good stuff in there, and I would definitely play it again. The fourth game is Tiletum. I gave this an 8. This is another board and dice game that I was very excited about. I love the action selection mechanism, how you get, you have dice that are out and you choose those dice, and however many pips on them give you resources, and then you get the inverse of them for action. So if you take a 6 die, you only get 1 action point, but if you take, a 1 resource die, then you get 6 action points. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff going on there, and it definitely feels like a game where you have tons of extra stuff you can do on your turn for free. So you take an action, you use up your 6 action points or your 3 action points or whatever, but then you get a whole bunch of bonus actions because you've picked up bonus tiles, and you get to build pillars, and you get to, fund cathedrals and all these cool things. So I super enjoyed it. There's also like some fairs and some scoring stuff that was fun as well. The final game that I reviewed was Monolyth. I also gave this an 8. I really, really enjoy 3D puzzles, tactile, polyomino stuff. And this was a really fun, very clean design that Phil Walker Harding came out with. He's very good at having that super taking out all the little extra bunch and just making a core game full of good, solid mechanisms. And so I felt like it was a very awesome 3D polyomino building puzzle that had just some very, very good stuff. So there you go. That's what I reviewed this week. I hope you all have a great day.
Hey there, everybody. It's Mike Delicio, and let's talk about the week that was. First up, I reviewed Combinations. I gave this a 7 out of 10. This is a tile-laying game, a drafting game that kind of feels like it comes from of an earlier time in gaming. It's not particularly innovative. I mean, it doesn't do anything that I haven't seen before, but I feel like I need to applaud it for the clean, simple rule set. And it seems like it does not just throw every mechanism and the kitchen sink along with it. So a 7 out of 10, a solid game, probably not one that I would play over and over again. Next up is Green Team Wins. I'm also giving this a 7 out of 10. This is a party game that's getting quite a lot of buzz, and I'm not exactly sure why. I'm giving it a recommendation, but it doesn't seem like there's as much of a hook as I was expecting. The hook in the game is kind of the scoring. But the scoring is not something I pay attention to in a lot of party games. A lot of times, especially ones like this, I'm more interested in what the kind of the prompts are. And that's what this game has going for it, is that the questions are very, very good. I'm interested in hearing what people have to say, and so that's why it gets a recommendation from me. Next up is Delicious. I gave this a 7.5 out of 10. Delicious is a flip and write game from Pencil First, and they've kind of carved out a bit of a niche of having kind of these nature-themed games. That's not all they do, but it's certainly part of their line. And this one is a kind of a step up from a standard flip and write. There's a little bit more of a decision space, and the other side of that coin is that it's a little bit harder to teach. There's a couple of not quite intuitive things that take a moment to kind of wrap your head around. But once you get it, it's a really solid flip and write game about planting fruits and veggies in your garden. Next up, we've got Basket Boss. This is a game that I really was surprised how much I liked it. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I like basketball fine, but honestly, you don't have to have any connection to the theme at all. It's essentially an auction game where you are trying to get the services of players to place on your team. They're different positions, but they basically just are like 5 players that you slot into your board, and they get either better or worse as the years go on. You're also trying to draft special power cards. A really clever game. I like Basket Boss quite a bit. Next up is Federation, which I also gave an 8 out of 10. This is a pretty involved Euro game with a very vibrant space theme, and I'm pretty ambivalent to space themes, to be honest with you. That's not what drew me in. What drew me in was how clever of a Euro game it is. It's essentially a game with multiple tracks, but each of those tracks are compelling, and there's a lot of interaction for a Euro game. Probably the part that I think is the most interesting is this idea of placing out workers of different strengths that you can either put out on one side that give you a particular number value towards a area control type of a thing, a slight area control thing, or the other side gives you votes towards particular projects you're trying to complete. So pretty cool game. Finally this week, I've got Heat, Pedal to the Metal. This is the new racing game from Days of Wonder. And man, I thought this was outstanding. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. Racing games to me have to feel like a race for them to be successful, and this very much feels like a race. It gives you a real sense of agency where you can push your luck and try to go fast through the turns, but you're going to be taking some risks. There's a little bit of push your luck in some of the card play. It's a game that has a learning curve. The first lap, at least, I felt a bit lost, but once it clicked in, once I understood kind of the flow of a turn and how things work, and the clever abilities you can do, the clever way you can manipulate your deck, it really started to shine for me. So Heat, Pedal to the Metal, I think is a real winner. All right, well, that's it for me this week. Let's keep it moving.
Okay, so from myself, I did a couple of okay games. Here, Katamino, this is a kind of fill in the, a block with these polyomino big wooden blocks, and hey, it's a puzzle. It's fine. 6 out of 10. Tiletum. Now, this one is a much bigger game and the latest in the T game series from Board and Dice. Chris and Wendy liked it a lot more than me. I had a lot of issues with different things. I think the game itself is fine. It's from my two favorite designers, probably. And yet, I felt that there was it's way too much downtime for me. A lot of analysis paralysis, some component problems. Things just kept it from being good. Fish Tank, another 6. This is a drafting game where you fill in a 4x4 squid. It's fine, it's okay, but it feels a little too random. And Helsinki. This is a sequel to Copenhagen, another polyomino game, but nothing new in this version. And in fact, I think it ends faster than I would like it to. So all those were 6s out of 10s. Green Team Wins. This is a party-style game that I really liked this one, especially in a situation with sort of a big group of people. It's very light, good question source. It's just kind of, you're trying to guess the same answer as everybody else. A 7 out of 10. Then Monolyth. Monolyth is a game where you're building this, monolith out of plastic blocks. A nice, really light filler. I thought this one was a pretty solid game. So Monolyth for me, another good 7 out of 10. Fun Facts, another party game. This is the sequel to So Clover / Just One. This one's not as good as both of them, but I really like the idea of this one where you're trying to guess what other people think about a question. Very interesting game, 8 out of 10. Basket Boss, this is a reprint from Board Game Tables. Really beautiful, good production, nice auction game. I like it a lot, 8 out of 10. Then me and Chris took a look at some of the second edition versions of Dominion. We took a look at Dominion Hinterlands, which I like the original expansion a lot. Nice and just easy stuff to add, and they did a really good job adding cards. This one's a 9. Dominion Prosperity, I give the original set a 10. Then the new cards they added to second edition, a 9. And Dominion Seaside, again, that's an original expansion, is 10. And the new stuff they added a 9.5. And in each of those reviews, we talked about the new cards they added and the cards they took out. And then finally, Federation, a big, giant Euro-style game of worker placements that's moving on tracks. I love the vibrancy of the game. I like how much fun it is. So many cool options. Just fantastic game. 9 out of 10. I also took a look at my top 10 Bruno Faidutti games. We played another round in the Disney Sorcerer's Arena tournament we're going through. We did the best publisher, the best board game publisher that there is. But you voted on that. So you can go back and see how that turned out. And we did crowd surfing, board game smorgasbord, board game breakfast. I did a live Q&A, and lots of other stuff went on over the past week. We got a new reviewer, Rich. You want to check him out, and a lot of other great stuff. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Week in Review. I'm Tom Vassell. We'll see you next time.